bike test. Today we are in a top secret location in Georgia at Triumph's off-road racing and product testing facility, and we are riding the brand new 2025 TF450RC Edition. This is the way they're going to release this bike in 2025, and we're going to tell you what we think.
Triumph has had a plan with this 450. They're saying they're all in, and from the perceived impression of the 250, it's been very successful. So here's what we know about this 450. They looked at everybody else's bikes. They've been testing all the different bikes. They've got Ricky Carmichael involved. It's looking like a successful way to go about doing this. The 450 is essentially the same as the 250 in the chassis and the suspension. The suspension's tuned a little bit different, but you could literally interchange the motors. And the bikes were sort of developed in parallel. They just decided to release the 250 first. Now, the biggest difference is the engine. And although they're the same bolt pattern for mounting, everything is different. Instead of being a double overhead cam, the 450 is a single overhead cam, 4-valve engine with a 5-speed transmission. It has a hydraulic clutch. It has Del Orto fuel injection and engine management by Athena. And what that does is it incorporates the same features as the 250 with traction control, launch control, the ability to use multiple maps through the Triumph app. On to the power, and here is what we feel. But remember, this was done on a one-day impression on a very tacky red Georgia clay track that we weren't super familiar with. So things could change when we ride it. Yeah, we're pretty confident. This is a chunky 4-stroke power band, meaning it's not like the 350 style of power where you have to rev it. You can lug this thing. It really starts with a lot of torque right off the bottom, and the torque curve feels mostly flat, which on a 450 is a good thing because you can ride it in almost any RPM. So it comes on with good power, has good power as it goes to the mid-range, and up on top it continues with good power. There isn't a zone in this motor that is what we would call downright impressive, and there's nothing that you're going to be let down by. The cool thing about this bike with the 5-speed transmission was there was 2 gears for everything, and sometimes even 3 gears if you were willing to let the motor rev down quite a bit. The other awesome thing is Triumph has their interchangeable map. So it has 10, or now I think 11, because there is a Ricky Carmichael map pre-programmed into the ignition and able to be tuned with their Triumph app, which uses the phone to communicate via Bluetooth. This comes standard on the RC Edition. And the Ricky map, well, frankly, I didn't like it. Mostly because I'm not Ricky Carmichael, and he was riding a gear lower everywhere around the track, so I could see where this map, which was a bit more, it was a little flatter on the bottom, but a bit more aggressive up in the upper RPM, where I liked one that actually the stock map, or even some of the more aggressive maps, were really impressive for me because I could actually ride the bike at gear high and it would pull it with only throttle. So the tunability is good, and Triumph says they're not letting you individually tune the maps. They're giving you complete supplied maps because it allows them to be more aggressive and not limit the ability of the tuner to compensate for somebody that might do something that would go outside of a durability parameter. So overall, it's a really good motor. It doesn't really compare to anything else other than it's just really smooth, really good, and really easy to ride. And yes, that means it's fast. We played with some of the features on the handlebar buttons. Traction control, couldn't tell. There was just too much traction all day and very few places, even in the morning in the mud, where we could get it to actually activate. The launch control, same thing. We schooled around with it and didn't really have the opportunity to tell, but again, we're not super familiar with that traction condition. The bike liked to lift the front wheel off the line, and good thing it comes stock with a launch control because that will help you here. The other one, quick shift. So we liked this on the 250. On the tracks here, we weren't shifting a whole lot, but we did notice that every once in a while our foot would touch the shift lever and cause the rev cut uses to make it shift gears when we weren't actually shifting gears, and that was a little bit weird as well, so we mostly left it off. The Kayaba suspension basically is, frankly, really good. This is the suspension that everybody is shooting for as a target, and Triumph has done a really good job with coming up with a setting that is just balanced and really neutral. We clicked the suspension one click one way, noticed that it didn't go in a direction we liked, and we went back. You can feel the changes. It's one click suspension sensitivity that usually is a sign of a very precise chassis. Of note is a lot of other outlets were playing around with moving the forks, kind of at the suggestion of some of the faster test riders. That's not us, but we also noticed that this gave the bike sort of a heavy feel. We ran it at 100 millimeters of sag, and we're happy with it all day. It has good bottoming resistance, it's supple, and even when the track started drying out at the end of the day, the bump transmission through the chassis, through the suspension, really didn't feel that bad. So I think they've nailed it with the suspension, and very similar to the 250, no complaints. Onto the chassis and the RC Edition, which is the only way this bike will be released. It has ODI bars and grips, which are kind of Ricky's signature items. It comes with a graphics kit. All the bikes will come with the number 4 and his signature, all that kind of stuff. And then it has the Hinson clutch cover, which is the cover only, and it has some engraving on it. These are the things that make it the kind of the special edition, that it's the only edition you're going to get in 2025. But the way the bike works, the chassis, again, very neutral. The aluminum frame doesn't shout aluminum frame, or it doesn't do anything that's going to tell you it's some way special or different. It's, again, neutral, balanced. The handling, it's not a notoriously front end heavy or front end steering bike, nor does it really like to slide or have the back end kicked around. Just kind of neutral and happy. And probably the good thing about this is it isn't, at least from the old days, a Ricky Carmichael setup, which would have been swept back handlebars and you know, low in the rear. Those days are gone, and watching Ricky ride the bike today, he looks very comfortable and happy on a bike that I was very comfortable and happy on. So they didn't make a crazy race version or something weird that the general public isn't going to like. It's narrow, it's easy to move around on. It has a gripper seat as well, so that's going to help you stay on the bike, especially when you hook up and get going. It's easy to move around on. The foot pegs provide really good control. Triumph was very insistent pointing out class-leading power to weight ratio. And though we didn't have a scale or a dyno on hand, they're claiming around 62 horsepower and 240 pounds wet. So I don't know what that ratio is or where they're getting at, but the bike didn't feel down on power, and it didn't feel heavy. Actually, it kind of feels lighter in the 450 world. It has a kind of an agility to it, and not to the point where it gets sketchy, where sometimes light bikes tend to dance. This one felt planted and sticking to the ground, and it didn't require any extra effort through the handlebars, or it wasn't, you know, tough to move around when you wanted to make the bike do stuff. So they might be onto something. If this is where they're going and this is the direction that they want to be leading at, it's going to take some back-to-back, and we'll let you know when we figure it out. They're using high-quality components on this. The Brembo brakes, for instance, have really good feel. They felt ridiculously strong as well, but also the traction was really, really good. Dunlop tires, again, the traction was really good, so the tires just, they were almost like Velcro, kind of insane. So I don't think Triumph has done anything crazy. They really wanted to kind of stay in a place that was going to be good for a wide variety of riders. And we spent all our time playing with the engine mapping features more so than adjusting the chassis, because frankly we were really, really happy with it. In conclusion, at $10,999 and available in February, this Triumph, it's really similar to the way we felt about the 250 when we first rode it. It doesn't have any faults, and it doesn't really stand out in any one area other than being a really good rounded package. Again, unfamiliar track and one-day riding impression. I'm sure we'll get our hands on one of these, spend a little bit more time on it, learn a little bit more in familiar places, but I don't think there's anything that you're going to be afraid of. I think Triumph is staying on course, building really good bikes, and they are in it for the long haul.
So after a day of riding the TF450RC, that's what we think. So check us out over at dirtbiketest.com, everything. It's all over the interwebs, and leave comments and we'll talk about it on Tech Talk Taco Tuesday. See ya.